We have a quorum.
Yes.
Do we need to wait?
No, we're good. I know Alan's not going to be here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my apologies, I don't have glasses, contacts in, so I have to.
6.
Thank you. 6 p.m., I call to order this meeting of the Economic Development Corporation, Town of Trophy Club. We have a quorum. Any public comments?
I don't have any.
Okay. Regular items. Number 1, consider approval of the April 3rd, 2025 Economic Development Corporation meeting minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Motion passes. Item number 2, discuss the Thrive Business Grant Program.
Good evening, EDC Board. Tonight, we're going to go over Cycle 1 and Cycle 2 of the Thrive Business Grant. I wanted to try to just give you an overview of what's going on with both of the cycles and how we're going to be moving forward. Cycle 1 is well underway. We've got 4 of the projects underway, with one of those that called me today for us to come out and do an inspection. So we're looking really good. We're about halfway through the year. They have until December to have it all complete. We did do an inspection today of Jolly, and they passed and approved. What's next for them, we'll send a document that states that me, Joe, and Greg all went to the business. We inspected it for scope of work. It was approved. They'll provide their receipts to us, and then we'll send it over to finance, and finance will do the last review and make sure that we can reimburse them for their amount. We did have to rescind one application because of non-communication. They didn't provide us a contract, and so we gave them an option to at least give us the performance agreement before April, and they did not do that. So we rescinded it. We asked them that if they would like to apply again, they can apply again, but they'd have to do it for Cycle 2. And then y'all would take that into consideration. Any comments on those? No? Okay. For Cycle 2, we've done a lot of outreach, a lot of marketing. We've received one application from a new business, and that business is over there across from PD 30. I forget which PD it is, but it's over there by the Christina's in that area. We've also, Brandon was able to talk with Metroport and get us a spot on their chamber latte. I did do a snippet of what our banner looks like. That goes out until June 9th. It's ran for 4 weeks. We've also put it in the town newspaper and social media outlets. And then I went out last week and did some outreach. I did the medical offices by the golf course, as well as the Bobcat area, those 2 commercial areas. They were excited. 2 of them told me that they would put in an application. They were excited about the opportunity. And then I also did some email outreach to the companies or businesses that we did last year, and then received 2 businesses that would like to apply. So we're looking good. And in front of you today, I have a couple of documents for you. I have applications, a QR code, some of our flyers, and then a couple of my business cards. If you're out and about in Trophy Club, you go to a business to pick up your dry cleaning or get a donut or eat some food, talk to the people that are there, give them the flyers. The more outreach that we can do, the better we can serve our businesses in Trophy Club. All right, is there any questions for this portion? Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Item number 3, discuss and provide feedback on the draft final plan document of the Grove at Trophy Club Small Area Plan Project.
All right, good evening again. This evening, we're going to be going over the small area plan draft. This was provided to you May 6th. This is the final document. This is what we're going to be giving to Town Council. We've had a couple of comments. I wanted to go over some general comments with you first. If we can look, the visual design needs a little bit of improvement. It currently plays like bland and lacks a little bit of professional appearance. That was a common denominator in a lot of the feedback that I received. We're looking at style, formatting, landscaping, layout. Those type of things also didn't sit well with the EDC or town staff. And then we just had some general comments about some sections, like the community outreach chapter should be reviewed and edited, a lot of grammatical errors and things like that. So if y'all all approve, these will then go to as discussion once we discuss this. If this is the common theme amongst everybody's feedback, we'll provide this to McAdams to have them edit it and then provide a clearer document for town council. We've also got to clarify factual content in the market analysis and community descriptions, verified numbers of homes and analysis figures, add more detail in the market analysis and fiscal impact sections, clarify connectivity, land use, and open space strategies, and then include timeframes and action plan matrix. Revise the program management and regulation action items, de-emphasize the hiring consultants. If you remember talking with town council, they didn't want to be told that they needed additional hiring of consultants. They just saw cha-ching, cha-ching. So if we can kind of pare that down and make it a little bit more objective and flexible, then it will kind of hold over on town council. Refine the parking agreement language to focus on compatibility review, and then reword the activation section actions to focus on strategies and not consultants again. So those were kind of some main themes that we were looking at in the document. And then we also had improved the key question call-out boxes to clarify, rewrite items, expand on the key considerations. And then, of course, just the additional ones would be the visual layout, acknowledgement page, wording, grammar, style, figures, and graphs. Pictures, we did receive some feedback from one of the council members. They did not like the council pictures in there, which is fine. We will be taking a new picture of them, so hopefully we can include that in this document if it's back in time. So with that, I know we received some comments back from James and Joe. Do y'all want to talk with the group about your comments?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what you brought up were...
James, hold the microphone.
Yeah. A lot of what you brought up with, grammatical errors and some stylistic things I pointed out. I mean, some are nitpicky, but, it's just feedback.
Yeah.
There's also some rewording that I wanted. The one portion of, I think it was maybe site analysis, and this is what I can recall. It seemed very negative, overly negative. How we have all these constraints like the power lines, the easements, and I just wanted that to be toned down some so that it was more opportunities than issues, right? Yeah, I mean, I think everyone else kind of covered a lot of what we saw.
Yeah.
Right, Joe? Yeah, Buzz.
I have some general comments. I agree with the grammatical errors. I found a lot of grammatical errors, but I mean, this was a draft,
Right.
But section 1.1, I think the definition of the small area plan, the beginning of that section should be in bold, so people understand what a small area plan is, okay? Not to get too nitpicky, but section 1.2, figure B1, you need to be able to read it. I mean, I had to put on a couple of different pairs of glasses to read it, and I still couldn't read it. Section 2.2, figure G2 is mixed use, and I don't recognize the picture. It's not a Trophy Club picture, and I think that we should be using, or they should be using Trophy Club businesses. Let's see, figure N.2 should be updated so that the on and off ramps aren't proposed because they're out there, they're
Yeah.
current, and, this should be a current, a current assessment. I also think, I don't know if the weight of it, there's a lot of words, and I think that it could be a little bit more concise, because what happens is when there's a lot of words, people tend to skip over it, and they'll only read the executive summary. So I think maybe if it could be a little more concise, maybe just get to the verbs.
Okay,
That's general comment. Other than that, though,
yeah,
it was moving in the right direction, I thought.
okay. Any other comments? Okay, so after this, I will present these to McAdams. I will give them all of our comments, the additional comments from tonight, and hopefully this will be something that they can fix for the town council final draft.
Which is when are they going to be presenting?
Well, it's this meeting first for final
Right.
draft, right? So.
Right.
It'll be this one, yes. Well, okay, we haven't had an EDC, we haven't looked at an EDC meeting for June. What we'll need to do in June is budget and this, the approval of the final draft. So that will come first, and then sometime in July, we'll probably go to council, yeah.
Okay. I also apologize that my comments were hung up in my outbox. So I did send them to you this afternoon after we did the inspection. I looked and went, boy.
That's fine, and if you do have comments later on and you would like to send them to me before tomorrow evening, please send them to me. I'll send this to McAdams by Monday morning.
Great.
Okay,
Perfect.
all right.
Originally, I think we intended to try and have a meeting on June 12th, if I remember correctly.
That's for ZBA and
That's
PNC.
what that one is, okay, all right.
We'll have to figure that out because we've got a lot of meetings in June, so I'll send out an email to verify everybody's availability. Okay.
Sorry, quick question on the
Yeah.
inspection today that we were at.
Yeah.
Did you need that in writing, or I thought we were going to do that here, sorry.
Yes, we are.
Okay,
The-
cool. Just
That
making
right
sure.
there.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you. Okay.
By the way, the inspection today, I thought went very well. One of the positives when we were
Oh.
talking to,
We'll have to talk about that afterwards.
Okay,
We're past
sorry.
that point. Okay.
Sorry.
Item number 4, discuss the EDC fiscal year 2025-2026 budget.
All right, so we have 90 days before the beginning of the fiscal year to approve an EDC budget. We have not before in the past provided a budget to you for review before we approved it. So tonight, we're just reviewing the budget. If you have any questions, if we'd like any changes, we can do that, and we'll bring the budget back for approval in June. We have to have it approved by July 1st, so June will be the final approval of this budget. So with that, we've done some number crunching. We do have some changes in the total revenue proposed. If you look at prior years, we have always been very conservative about the sales tax that we've budgeted or proposed. And if you look at fiscal year 22, 23, and 24, we're well above 700,000. So we felt that around 750,000 was an appropriate amount to propose, where it wouldn't be such a large increase from what we proposed to what we actually budget, or what our actual numbers come out to be. So this year, we're doing 750,000. Does that seem okay with everyone? Prior years, all we did was an inflationary factor of 3%, and we stayed well within 600 and like last year, $650,000. So we're just going up $100,000 more. We know right now we're already at, we're already well above 500, and we're already halfway through. So we're looking at, again, about $800,000 or more. We'd like to kind of bring that gap closer because we know sales tax are well above the 700 mark. So that's why we did that. So total revenues is 776,250 with a 15% increase, and that's due to better reflection of those revenues. If we're looking at total expenditures proposed, we're looking at 741,763. This is a 13% increase from fiscal year 2025. This year, if you remember last year, we only budgeted 150,000 of the 300,000 for the Thrive Business Grant. We wanted to have additional years for this grant, and so this year we thought if we're not going to continue with the Thrive Grant after this year, let's go ahead and budget the full remaining amount, which is 195,000. If we get that many applications in, we have the budgeted amount to provide everyone with a grant if you choose so, and then we wouldn't have to do any other years, if that was up to the EDC. If you would like to continue the years, we don't have to go up to this amount. If you'd like to stay at the 150,000, we can definitely do that, and we can continue this for another year, another cycle. But that is one of the reasons we have an increase, as well as the incentive program. We wanted to provide 150,000 for the incentive program, just in case y'all would like to do a new program for this following year for any type of commercial properties or for the small area plan, anything like that. So those are kind of the two large ones. Everything else is a flat rate. We just did it flat across, or it's a 3% increase inflationary factor.
Professional outside services, is that McAdams?
So that was McAdams this year. We have a small area plan coming up. If we'd like to implement that, we foresee some type of professional service fees. So we just kept that flat.
Right.
I assume advertising's maxed to what we're allowed to have?
Yes, advertising is at the 8,000.
Okay. Where did depreciation expense and bond interest go?
So you don't see depreciation expense in governmental accounts for us.
Okay.
So. And then the debt service line is that bottom one, so the debt service is where the bond payment is coming from, 202,000.
Okay.
And then if you look up at the top, legal services, we did bring that down 10,000. We did have litigation this last year, and so we're looking at decreasing that because we've completed that litigation.
Is the $10,000 admin fee we talked about just the flat rate enough to cover?
Yes, that's to cover all of the departments that help with EDC.
Okay, that's why I was curious if it's enough.
Yes.
Okay.
So in '24, we had 32, almost 33K in expenses, right, personnel expenses, right?
Yes.
And now we're doing a transfer to general fund of 80,752, or 84,000.
Yes. That salary was for just the town manager. Because the liaison is also a part of the EDC as well as your staff here. That's why we put it down into the expenditures as a transfer out for the 80,000. And that encompasses still the 15% from both my salary and the town manager's salary, as well as the 10,000 for administrative fees.
Right, thank you for the explanation on that, but why did it jump from 33K to 80K, 84K?
The 33 was for just the town manager's salary at a 15%.
That didn't include anybody?
No,
Oh, okay,
it didn't include anyone else.
gotcha, okay, thank you.
It kind of looks like we got a freebie for a while.
But there's a 50K difference.
Yes.
Brandon wanted a raise.
There we go.
And that budget was done before Brandon was in office, so.
I don't know what that means, but that's okay. So then, do we,
It's just discussion.
Just comments, yeah. If you would like to, General comments, if we would like the Thrive Business Grant to be $150,000 like last year and do it for an additional year, please let me know that's the direction that you would like to go. If you'd like to keep it at the 195 and try to get all of the money out in grants this year and maybe hold off on the Thrive so you can do more incentive projects, that's why we have more incentives, then we can also do that.
My position would be do the 150
Okay,
instead of the 195. I think once this gets out into the public, into the general business community, I think we're going to see additional applications. I think it's going to kind of take off.
okay.
So, I mean, there's no reason why we shouldn't do it. But I'd also like to have something on the side for incentives if some, business comes along that makes sense for us, and we see it as a real good opportunity. I'd like to have the flexibility of having that money there.
Okay, so stick with the 150 for incentives?
That's my position.
And did you want to do an additional year for the Thrive? Is that why you're cutting it down to 150 instead of 195?
I'd like the Thrive to continue,
Okay,
yes.
At 150.
at the 150.
Correct, I'm with you, because I think it's better to actually incentivize new businesses to come. Not that we don't want to take care of our current businesses, we do. But I think that incentivization, especially if we're going to look at doing something like the Grove Project, where we're actually bringing on some new businesses, I think it's very important to incentivize them to come to Trophy Club, not just continuing to use our money to support ones that have already gotten established.
So that's
But
a little bit
I still want
out,
support, a little bit of both.
that's a little bit outside of the scope of the Thrive Business Grant.
Correct.
Okay, so if we want to do that, we'll have to do that in the additional incentives that we have.
Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly what I'm saying.
Yes.
Perfect,
But
okay,
we have a line item for that already.
correct.
And I'd love to run out of Thrive money. I think would be great to do that, and to run out of incentive money too.
Okay.
I mean, that's our goal, right?
Well, is 150 enough for you for incentives for next
Well,
year?
that leaves that 45,000. Can't we put that in incentives instead of Thrive?
That's just allocated for the Thrive, just for the Thrive. So if you would like to add more money to the incentives, we can add additional money to it up to 200,000 if you would like, but we can't use Thrive. That's a separate program.
So let's say the small area plan takes off and we have a lot of interest. Is there any way to amend the budget to boost our incentives if we have multiple?
Absolutely,
Yep,
yes.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, part of this will be, I don't think it's as important that you decide on the exact number of what you want for sure, right? I think you're probably not going to get $200,000 of incentives in 1 year, right? It's probably not going to happen with that. Whatever's amount will be left over after that year, we'll be able to roll into the next year and kind of move that part forward. So if we leave that amount at 150 or at 195, I think at the end of the day, it's whatever is left over will roll over to the next year. When we're meeting this year, we'll know what we've allocated next year at this time, right? So we'll know that we've allocated another round, and we had $100,000. That leaves roughly, $100,000 left on it. We can kind of budget that for the next year.
Okay.
As we're taking a look at it, as well as then in your budget, you have a separate incentive bucket of $150,000 that could be used to develop another program, used for other incentives that might come. So that provides you some flexibility. And also remember the fact that you have about $2.5 million as of the last completion of the last fiscal year in fund balance as well.
Right.
And that's where, because, if you're doing something on a larger scale, $150,000 isn't going to get you very far with it, but you have the $2.5 million there that we could recommend as far as bringing in something that would be significant by way of the small area plan or what that might be for it. So those are, you do have a lot of flexibility because you have that fund balance, and then you also have these programs here. And as we're ramping up on developing programs, right, we have not historically had programs that you're actually running and putting money out. As we develop these programs and get them underway, we'll start to have actual larger expenditures happening beyond the typical, paying for, the occasional marketing elements and things like that come along for it. And those ones will be bigger ticket items, so.
Yeah, I was thinking more like on the TI basis, so whenever to inspires people to, whenever some of our empty shells start possibly getting built out, or someone goes out, incentivizing them from, reimbursement TI, things like that.
Right.
That's kind of where I was going with that.
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
To bring
absolutely.
them in. Okay.
Perfect.
So where do we allocate funds to focus on some of our negatives, some of our drawbacks, i.e. the parking easement? That's an obstacle, potential obstacle for development.
I think that's where Brandon was talking about the fund balance. If we were to bring people in with a small area plan and we would have to change that area, that's where we would incentivize with the fund balance.
Is that,
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yep. Well,
Good.
it's probably, at the end of the day, to do everything we're looking for, it's probably not enough in just the EDC fund balance. We'll be having a conversation with the council at our meeting on Tuesday. The TERS that we have for this area, it's a tax increment reinvestment zone. What that generally means is that we established a base year. Everything that has developed in that area since then has generated new property taxes, and that new property tax amount is swept away into this tax increment refinancing zone account for us to use. That we've used it for incentives. That's with the breadwinners and the HG Supply projects. We're incentivized with that money. We've now completed that project, and that money is now available to begin using in other ways within the zone. Right, there are state laws around how we have to use it. However, our conversation on Tuesday will be: do we want to close the TERS down? Right, the projects are completed technically right now, but we have more going on in the small area plan. Do you want to leave it open and use it as a potential place to incentivize future beyond the 2.5 million that we have in EDC fund balance, or do you want to close it down and kind of get rid of that fund and move that on? So we'll know more after Tuesday what the council's direction is on that one, but we are having that conversation with them on Tuesday. Okay.
cool. So Thrive is gonna change from 195 to 150.
Correct.
Correct.
I will change that, yes.
And incentive programs is going to go to 100, or is it going to stay at 150?
We can keep it at 150. If we
Okay.
need to amend, like James said, we can do that.
I just want to, in my own mind, know what we've accomplished tonight. Good.
And just remember, we had one of the applications be rescinded, so that's an additional 20,000. We did not use the 150 from last year. We only used 104,000. That's why we had the 195. So we're looking at well over 200,000 left in Thrive money.
Great.
Okay. Is everybody good? Okay.
More discussion? No? Anything for executive session?
No, we're good.
We are adjourned at 6:27.
Thank you.
Did you want to talk about the